Hello. Hi, how are we doing? Good evening. Good evening. Sorry, I keep forgetting that. We're all over the world right now. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good day to you, wherever you are. How are you doing? How's the day gone? If your day is just starting, cheers to a fantastic day. How are you? Great. How are the children? How are the children in your care? I hope it's getting easier. Yes, we can hope. Hi dear, thank you as always. Thank you for supporting me. Today we're looking at personality traits. I understand I'm supposed to be able to paste the topic, right? Okay, this is not the time to experiment, but I would look into doing that for next time so that anybody joining in can know what we're talking about. Thank you for joining in. Let's give it a few minutes and then we can get right to this guy's making me blush. I'm beside myself. This is what I deal with every day, every day. Alright? Even when I'm having a bad day. Bad-ish day, because descriptions such as bad and all of that are colored by our perception. We wear lenses and we see things through the lenses. So what someone else considers a bad day is what someone is somewhere appreciating. So let's say your children have been a little bit challenging. If they have tested you and your patience is wearing thin, you could say you've had a rough day because this happened and that happened. But someone else is hoping that they have the opportunity to have children to actually disturb them. All right? To have, okay, then I'm going to try. I don't know where I'm going to do that. So some people would hope for the opportunity to have a child disturb them, and I'm trusting. I'm a Christian, okay, so it has to show. So I'm trusting God along with you, waiting parents in waiting. I'm trusting God along with you that very soon you would have your own children as you desire, the number that you desire, and that you're able to be the best parent that they need, because we need you to put in this work. Okay, so thank you again for joining. I'm trying to pin the title there. I can't find. Hi Sandra, welcome. Thank you for coming online. Thank you. I can't find where to pin it, but I shall find out by next time we talk. Okay, so let's jump right in. Sandra is here. Abayom is here, and some people will be watching much later, and I hope it's useful for you. So we're looking at personality types in children. Now I say in children because that's what this page is about, but really it's personality types of people. Okay, so let's just why is Sandra laughing at me now? Sandra, please now. All right. You're laughing with me, she perspective. Okay, let me shift it. All right, so personality type would refer to psychological classifications of different types of individuals. So on a more narrow perspective, you'll be looking at personality traits, right? But personality type will be the broader version. So categorization of people psychologically, okay? So each person is unique. Everybody is different, right? Thank you, sis. So everybody's different. We're all unique, and that is a given. Because why are we unique? Because we have our different experiences, which is peculiar to us. Now, no two people will have the same exact experience living in the same house. The environment may be similar, but the experiences cannot be similar. So there are significant emotional experiences that a person would have that will separate them and differentiate them. Apart from DNA, now I'm talking about a person's makeup, a person's psychological makeup. So there's the significant emotional experiences, there's the environment that the person grew up in. That may be similar, but it cannot be exact, right? So if you look at all of that, you would find that no two people are exactly alike, right? But because personality traits and personalities can be grouped together, there is a school of thought that hi sis, welcome Stahana. So there's a group of there have been studies, right, that have shown that when you act a certain way, you can be described a certain way. So yes, there are positives and there are negatives, but it is just the way it is. Okay, can it be worked on? Obviously, with the self-awareness, improvement, working on oneself, accepting that this is a limiting state of mind, this is a limiting action, this is a limiting perspective. You can change it and therefore change yourself. So you would be exhibiting what we call a pseudo-personality, which can come as a result of realizing the limitations of the personality that you were given or assigned, or who you are, your makeup, your core. But if you find out that this, I need to adjust this, so you can learn to downplay the negatives and improve on the positives, so that there's a balance and you're better for it, right? So today I'm going to, and I like to say that in relation to parenting is not an exact science. We're mostly winging it. We're mostly winging it. But behavior is. Behavior is a science, and it has been studied for the longest time. And so we can make use of the information that has been available. People have dedicated their lives, their time to studying behavior. And so when they have come up with research, when studies have been done, we can look into it and see how it applies, and where we agree with or it makes sense to us. Why not adopt it? That is growth. That is change. That is learning from other people's experiences. It doesn't necessarily have to happen to you, but you don't have to experience that particular situation to gain the knowledge that the person who has experienced it has, right? So you're better for it without going through that circumstance, right? So today I'm going to be talking about personality types of children, with particular attention to children, my constituency, right? To children, based on research and work that has been done by my mentor, my teacher, the master family life practitioner, and the creator of family systems engineering certification courses in Nigeria, Praise for Owe. He adapted this, right? He adapted the known perspectives of personality descriptions, right? So he used car models. It's an interesting perspective. He used car models to describe personality types in adults. So I'm not going to be using the cars for the children. I'm just going to say this type of child, okay? So a child is most likely to have 4 personalities, a blend, right? A blend of 4 personalities. There are 4 personality types that we're discussing today, and a child is likely to have 4 of those, right? But usually, typically, there's a dominant one and there is the complementary one. So the dominant one is the one that jumps at you. A child does something, that's the one you see in the forefront. But there's a complementary one that backs it up. So we're usually made up of a blend of 2. Typically, we have a blend of 4, but there's a dominant one and a complementary one, and that is how you would ordinarily be described. If I did an assessment on you or on your child, I'm going to look at the dominant, going by the scores of the questions. I'm going to look at the dominant one and the complementary one, and then try to merge them and give you a description of who your child is. So as I begin to describe, you will notice that some of the things you considered bad behavior or inappropriate behavior, because like I said earlier, we wear lenses and we see things through our own lenses of our own emotional experiences. Something that we have been taught is bad to eat meat first, is bad to look at people eyeball to eyeball. Don't do that. You don't talk when others are talking, right? So some of those things that we consider not okay or inappropriate are actually expected behavior, because it's the person's personality. So how do you change it? It's a child's personality. So how do you remove it from that child? How do you completely remove it? And understand that depending on the age of your child, your child can be molded. Okay, we can teach them, we can show them, we can help them understand that, okay, you are like this, but you can be better. You can adopt this tactic. You can be more diplomatic. If your child is the forefront kind, you can be more diplomatic in your speech. You can measure your reactions, right? So you can teach your child okay? But you have to understand that this is who the child is so that you know what needs attention. You have to understand that, okay, this is not negative, this is not bad, this is not inappropriate, this is just who this child is. This child will tell you their mind whether you like it or yes. And if you're a teacher, sorry, if you have one of those children in your class, the one that you would mispronounce a word and will tell you straight up, no, it's not. I think my son did that when he was much younger. His teacher, what animal was it? She handled it well because she was relating it to me that she had said maybe koala or something, and he said no, that's not how it's said. This is how it's said. Now another teacher would have said, my friend, will you keep quiet? Who is talking? I'm talking, you are talking. That kind of situation. But she was like, oh, okay, thank you. Okay, and then she went on to compliment him, and she said, oh, you know so much about animals. And he indeed does. He still says things that surprise us today, and he's like, okay, this dinosaur, that animal, that and then the day he wants to show that he understands these things that I don't, asks me to differentiate a cheetah and a tiger, and obviously it's the stripes and the slender body, and then he goes to say, okay, something has a mark across the face and all of that, and I said and I would say okay. And sometimes I would, scatter it and say, please leave me. I don't know. And I don't know. So why are you trying to embarrass your mom? But she was able to say, oh, you know a lot about animals. And probably that's why he's still interested in animals today. He knows the most random things. But another person who is not as emotionally stable, not stable, I'm not trying to describe, emotionally aware, would have taken offense and said, what do you mean? You're correcting me in front of the whole class. You're making me look like I'm not smart. It is what it is. She took the correction. Next time she says the word, she'll be pronouncing it correctly, better than the person who would have argued, right? So what we may consider not okay are things that are normal and expected. And depending on the age of your child, like I said, you have an opportunity to mold them. You know what needs attention. And some things are generic, right, in handling children, like speaking in low tones, for instance. It's surprising, but it works, especially for younger children, right? And then when you speak to your younger children in low tones, why should they get older and then you shout? There's an issue there that needs to be looked at. So if you have trained yourself to be able to address them in low tones, and then, for instance, you're trying to correct a child that is obviously physically more little than you, and you're towering above this child and backing out instructions and correcting, and this child is not likely to be receptive. The child is more likely to hear what you're trying to communicate if you come down to their eye level and you look them eyeball to eyeball and you say, look, I love you, but I don't like what you did. You should not have done this. This is what you should have done, because that is something else that we fail to do. Don't do this, don't do this. What should the child do? Crickets. No instruction as to what the child should actually do. It's always, why would you do that? No, you should not have done that. You should not have done that. In future, this is what you do. We leave that out. So that is a plus, a bonus. So let's remember to give them specific instructions and not to be unkind about it. So what are the 4 personality expressions that you may find in your child? Number 1, your child may be an intimidating child. Your child may be a creative child. Your child may be a dependable child. And your child may be a systematic child. So those are the 4 groupings that we're looking at. The 4 broad groupings that we're looking at. Welcome, mommy. Thank you for joining. So, your intimidating child. An intimidating child is a little boss who questions everything you ask them to do because there's a leader in them. They are natural leaders. They don't easily bend. They don't easily blend in. By design, they question process. They question ideals. They question ideas. So you say don't do that, and this child looks at you and says why? And because you are still work in progress, the same way I am, Shebi, we're all work in progress. You say, what do you mean? You're asking me why? No. You don't ask that child, you don't tell that child you're asking me why. You tell the child why. Because the child actually wants to know. The child is interested in knowing. They take risks and they don't fold under pressure. They may come across as arrogant, but what they are is bold. That's what they are. You may see them as arrogant, showy, but they're just bold. Okay, somebody's identifying their child. They're bold, and that's okay. We need more bold people around us in the world today. We need people to challenge status quo and say, why are we doing something like this? Can it be better? So what you want to do with such a child is channel it, is package it, is let them know that it's okay to be like this, but let it be constructive, let it be productive. So you have a problem with how things are done. Think of a solution rather than only seeing the problem. Think of a solution and put it forward. So that child is independent, they are determined, they are outspoken, and they are decisive, right? Judgment and negative labels will sit well with them. So say you have that kind of child, and you say you call them something inappropriate, right? And they tell you, I'm not like that, and it attacks your ego. This child is talking back. This child is not talking back. The child is only correcting a negative label, and that is okay, right? And these children are relentless. They won't even ask you for help. Even when they struggle, you will see them struggling at something. They may not ask you for help, right? And at the end of the day, if you offer to help, they may say, Mommy, I got it. I'll take care of it. And it will hurt your feelings. It will hurt your feelings. But that's that about that. They're independent. They don't need you watching over them, whatever. As long as you put your values in place and you teach them, you can go to sleep. I know someone who was telling me about their daughter, a younger daughter, and they were like, they don't have a problem sending her to boarding school. But the older one, they would think about it. That's personality difference. And it's okay. They're more likely to be if they don't have the right values now, to be the ones who will incite others, who would lead others astray if they don't have the right values. But if they have the right values, you can be sure they are not the ones that would easily be affected by peer pressure. They won't. They are not the ones that somebody will offer something to sniff and they won't look at it and go like, but why would you put something like that in your nose? That would be their perspective, right? So what is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. So let's not try to change these children because of our own ego. Let's channel it. Let's mold it. Let's teach them how to relate to people. These kind of children need to be taught diplomacy, and they need to be taught to respect the opinion of others. So they are usually the first to answer questions. We can teach them to, okay, take a step back. It's not that you don't know it. We all know you know it. But you can let others shine too. Teach them with wisdom, so that they can accommodate. They usually walk alone. So you want to teach them the benefit of teamwork. You want to teach them thank you, Mommy. You want to teach them the significance of putting heads together, letting them realize that my mom would always correct it, two good heads are better than one. Teaching them collaboration. That is what you want to focus on. But you don't want to take away what they came with, because it is good. There's nothing wrong with it. It is your ego that is affected. So you build up some resistance and shake it off. When they do it and it pains you, shake it off. But if they are rude, you want to bring them back and say, no, you could have said this differently. You could have said this respectfully. But that natural disposition to be leaders and independent, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. So let's move on to creative children. Now, these children can be seen as disorganized and scattered. Do you know any child like that? They don't take things seriously. They're happy-go-lucky. They can be seen as frivolous, as fickle, and they tell stories, especially when they are younger. Somebody, something, one lion, interesting, grandiose tales. So somebody else will see it as telling lies, but what they are is imaginative. They're dreamy, right? They are happy. They're always smiling. Who wouldn't want to be around somebody who always sees positive, who always sees light? They're the kind of children that you would be cross with and say something, say, hey, hi Tokwe, welcome. Yes, it is. Just say, welcome, thank you for joining. So they're the kind of children that you would say, now I've lost my train of thought, and they say I should not do this again, but it's okay, I'm learning. So they're the kind of children that you would say, okay, let me move on to the next point. I don't remember what the example I was going to make, but if I remember, I'll come back to it. So they are this kind of children easily blend in because they want to be liked, right? They are happy, they are excited about everything. Okay, yeah, I remember now. So if you correct them and you expect them to be sad, I don't know if you have such a child. You have said what you did is not all right. You have corrected them, and then the next minute they come and they say, I'm hungry. And you're like, guy, I just told you what you did was bad. Shouldn't you even be thinking about what you did? They have lost it. They have let it go. You are the one who is still angry about what they did. They hopefully have taken the lesson. And after, or you punish them, and after they are smiling with you. They don't hold things to heart. That is the kind of people they are. These children blossom with praise, right? And if you have such a child, you want to be careful. Because of their nature, their self-esteem needs to be carefully curated. They need attention. You want to be careful because they have a tender heart, and they are trusting, and they are forgiving, right? They are forgiving. They don't hold grudges. They don't hold things to heart. And this kind of child, if you shout at such a child, now if you shout at the independent child, they can respond with something like, why are you shouting at me? What did I do? This child may recoil and withdraw, and you don't want that. You want them to retain that boisterous, that happy attitude that they carry, because our world needs it. You don't want to take that away from a child that you come across, right? So you want to pay attention to how you make them feel, because this kind of children may be sensitive to words, and they may not always be able to have the will to come against a force. You are the force now. You're coming hard. They may not have the will to come against that force like the independent child would, like the independent child would, and tackle you for real. They won't be able to do that because their nature is gentle and calm and all of that. So you don't want them to recoil and have doubts about their self-worth. So you want to be careful what you say to these kind of children. So let's move on. Intimidating child, rather. Let's move on to dependable children. Now these are peace-loving people. They don't want wahala, right? But one thing that is significant about them is that they take a while to adapt to change, right? So with this kind of child, you want to bring in a maid or a family member to live with you. You carry them along, and then you give them time. You don't make the assumption like, I told you this is what is going to change. They are slow to accept change. It is who they are. Perhaps you know an adult or two who is like that, maybe a colleague or a boss or somebody that you work with that you know who is like that. It is the way they are. They are not trying to mess with your mind. They are slow to accept change. It takes them time. They are cautious people. Those kind of people, as investors, will not likely lose money. They may not make money too because they don't take risks, but they're not likely to lose money. They're not likely to do MMM, right? Because they're cautious people. It has to make sense. Even if it takes time for them to adapt, to change, right? So this kind of people, if you don't take the time that they need into consideration, they may rebel. They may just rebel and just leave you by yourself. And you don't want that in your child, right? So these kind of children are slow and steady and consistent and dependable. They are pillars by nature. They are loyal to a fault, because it will take them time to decide not to like you. You see? Also, it takes them time to like you. So this kind of child, you don't want a guest to visit your house and then you tell them to come and give the guest a hug. This kind of child will look at you and go like, what's all this wahala? You don't want to do that. You don't want to force them to shake somebody's hand, because it takes a while for them to build up trust in people. So you don't want to destroy this natural capacity that they have to be slow to trust, to be cautious, to be careful. You don't want them to throw caution to the wind. This is who they are. If you want them to learn to trust people, show them. Tell them, let them know, reinforce the consciousness in them that you mean well, you love them, you have their best interest at heart, and you can be sure that they will not waver, because it takes time for them to get there again, right? So you don't force them, you don't tamper with their call, right? That they should come and greet somebody or come and hug somebody or come and shake somebody's hand. Why? There's no point. And then you're trying to prove to people that your child is well behaved. People who their own children may not be as well behaved. Does it really matter? Appearances are so important to us sometimes, and we have to let go of these things so that we don't destroy our children. We don't dig into their core and tamper with it. Okay, so know that this child is this child. This child is not the one that will run and greet people. You can teach them to say hello, verbalize a greeting, that's fine. But hug auntie, hug uncle, they will not easily do this. So let's not push them, right? So lastly, let's look at systematic children, right? Now these type of children are, yes, reinforce the consciousness in them. Yes, thank you, Sandra. These children are the George and the Georgina because they have standards, and their standards are perfection. Their standards are up here. They hold people to those. They have those standards themselves, and they hold people to those standards. Okay, they are like that. They are the ones that will step into the room, and the first things they see are things that are not arranged, are not aligned, are disorganized, or somebody who is not properly put together. And sometimes they say it. So they are seen as judgmental. They are critical by nature. Teachers must love this kind of children, right? Because they enter the classroom and they say, wow, that chair is dirty. I can imagine how a teacher would feel if a child said that, because our culture, the older person always knows more than the younger person. Standard. Right? So these children are sticklers for fairness and equity. Now they don't have many friends, but they are loyal to the few that they have. Now most times these children are described as unsociable, fixated on what is there. So when you hear things like my mommy, my daddy is my toy, the child might be a systematic child. They are focused on order, right? They are fault finding. They may come across as fault finding, okay? And they are perfectionists. They are error noticing. They are just aware, right? But in truth, these children are observant. They are detailed. They are accurate. They are efficient. You give them a task, you can go to sleep. Right? If you have one child that is like this and one that is creative, you may find that you can give your systematic child 5 instructions and they will follow it to the letter. They will not waver to the left or to the right. If you give your creative child 5 instructions back to back, you're on your own, because they had only one. And they will do that one as best as they can, and they will leave it and let it go. You must understand that to help such a child to become organized, you can have them write it down. You can write a schedule for them. You can put it somewhere they can see it and remind them from time to time, what are you supposed to be doing now? Help them learn organization. Don't make the assumption that they will become organized. And then I should mention that if you have 2 children that are different and you don't understand this, you would expect a fish to fly. And it's not fair. It's not fair, because a person is the way a person is. Okay? A person is the way a person is, right? If they have not been taught how to manage it, then expecting one child to be like the other, especially if they are so different and practically opposite, is not fair. So know your child for who they are and handle them accordingly. Okay? So we have described the systematic child. Okay? They are not as emotional as other children, right? They are not. And if you want to convince them about something, you want them to change their position, you must present your facts and figures. You must come detailed. You must come correct. You can't just give them some bamboozled like sounding story and expect them to know. It must make sense. If it does not make sense, for instance, they are not likely to be swayed by WhatsApp WhatsApp broadcasts. I'm shaking a table. Broadcasts will come to them, and they initially their first reaction would be, how logical is this? They are logical. They are calculating. They are not because everybody is following. They are not likely to follow. Okay. So, also something significant about systematic children is don't ignore their efforts, because they are perfectionists, which means that they put in a lot of effort in what they do. They may not get the results that you want, but be sure that your systematic child worked hard at that thing. So what will take one child 30 minutes to attempt A somebody, my mom is doing subs, it is well. Another child, your systematic child has put in hours of work. Because they didn't get it doesn't mean they didn't put in the effort. And you should acknowledge their efforts, because you understand that the perfectionist in them has required them to work hard at whatever it is that you have asked them to do. Now, it may not turn out perfect. They may not achieve perfection, but they have put in their efforts that they believe can yield perfection. So acknowledge that effort in your systematic child. Don't ignore their efforts, and then teach them to help to relate better with people. Like I said, they are not as emotional. They see it the way it is, they say it like it is, and they said what they said, and that's that about that. But you can teach them. Children are malleable. You can teach them. You can give them a book to read depending on their age. As they are growing older, you can show them. You can be that person to them. Especially if your personality types are similar, you can be that person to them. So they see you how you handle things, and they can learn from it. Because they are facts and figure and research based, you can give them papers of research work that has been done in a particular area, so they're able to see that, okay, if I'm able to do this, then I can get these results, and hopefully that will shift their position. So to accurately discover your child's personality type, there's a child personality discovery assessment that can be run on your child, or a personality assessment that can be run on you if you need to figure out your personality type, and that will come with a report showing you expected behavior, expected environment, what you like, what you don't like. It might surprise you, it might reinforce what you already know. And if it's in the case of your child, if your child is old enough to answer those questions, then it can help you understand and accept your child for who they are. And then it will also show you what areas to work on. I can do that for you. It's a service. It is not free. Okay, this one is free, right? That one is not. Okay, so if you are able to understand people's personality types, then you can relate to people better. You can relate to people from the point of knowledge and acceptance rather than judgment. Okay, you can understand that, okay, this person is slow to decide, let me give them more time. Okay, this person requires information to decide, let me provide that information. Okay, this person seems disorganized, let me, if I'm a PA to somebody who is disorganized, for instance, then I know that my job is to organize them and also give wiggle room for changes, for sudden changes in schedule, for instance. So they've told you they have a meeting, or they've accepted to take a meeting at 4. Understand that they can change their mind at 3:35 or 3:45, and you don't take offense, because that's that about that, especially the ones that have grown. But the little ones that are in our hands, we can put in the effort to help them learn the positives, right? And mitigate the negatives, downplay the negatives of their personality types. So that is my presentation. I see that I have a question here. Let me okay, Sandra wants to know the earliest age. Well, a child that can understand the questions. So I would say about 7-8. About 7-8 should be good enough for a child to be able to understand themselves enough to answer certain questions, because the questions are the revelationary tool that we would use to correctly assess and describe the child's personality type. I hope I have been able to help today. I hope somebody has picked up something. I hope somebody is going to drop something, because unlearning can be hard. Unlearning can be difficult. It is easier to continue the path that we know that is familiar, but we have to grow, we have to get better, and we have to do right by our children. And we can't continue to say, this is how I was trained, this is how I was raised, and this is how I'm going to raise my own. Your child can be different from you. If your child is different from you and you handle the child the same way you were handled, you will destroy the gift that you have been given. And we don't want that. We want children to turn out wholesome, to be emotionally stable, to be able to question processes, to be able to think solution, to think positively about themselves, about others. We need people around us who will regard and rate other people and see them as equals, and understand that what they can't take, they should not give, right? And all of this comes from understanding who we are at the core. So thank you, Fisaya. You will watch the playback in Jesus' name, because we have finished. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.